Today I'm going to show you how to do a extractor spring change on your Infinity slide with a pivoting extractor design. So in terms of how often you should do this, the spring change interval is about 5,000 rounds and the hook itself is about 30,000 rounds. But today we'll take a look at how to remove everything and swap those parts out. So start off, we've got a bare slide here, not bare, but it's off the gun. We got to remove our firing pin and firing pin stop. So you just take a punch, poke it into the back of the firing pin just a little bit, enough to where it is clearing the firing pin stop, and pull down. There we go. Pull the firing pin stop down, pull the firing pin out. And now the next tool we're going to use is a 1/8 inch Allen wrench. I've got this long one here so it can reach all the way down. It only needs to get to about here, so we figure 4 or 5 inches. But you just stick this in the back of the slide. Get it lined up with your screw, your breech face screw. There we go. And go ahead and crack it loose. So it is traditional threaded, so to the left works. There we go. It is Loctited, so it's going to be a little snug. So just keep pressure on it and eventually it'll crack loose. Go ahead and thread it out. You can see down here it's starting to separate from the disconnector track. There we go. Okay, so it's still threading in still sticking out of what was the breech face, but I've got the breech face itself out, so I'm gonna now get this out of the slide itself. So now we're gonna complete full disassembly of the pivoting extractor. So I'm going to basically locate my pivoting pin, this is the top side right here. On the bottom side is right here where it goes, where I'm going to drive from. So I've got my small punch here. I'm going to stick it in that hole, and I'm just going to give it some taps until it is out. So there is my punch, or my pin. And this is directional, so we'll talk about that on the reassembly. Now I'm going to pinch my extractor hook so it doesn't go flying. Pull my punch out, and there we are. We have our hook and the spring, and then the bare breech face. And now we're fully disassembled, and we'll start looking at reassembly. All right, now we're going to start talking reassembly of the pivoting extractor into the breech face. So I've got the breech face in here in the vise, and so this is the front side, this is the back side, and then this is actually the right side of the breech face that's facing up, just to give you some orientation. I've also got this, it's part of a caliper, but it's approximately a 1/4 inch piece of steel in here that I'm using as a spacer to kind of hold it in the vise, so that I can hold it in the vise. So what I'm going to do here is, tools wise, I've got a 1/16 inch starlet, and I'm just going to set the pivoting extractor down where it goes and put it there. So now it's standing very proud of the breech face, and we need to compress it straight down so that we can get our pin in from the bottom. Actually, our punch first. What I do, since I have girly IT guy hands, is I like to take a punch and just apply pressure into the caliber marking here, just to push straight down, so that I have enough finger strength basically to hold it while I push my punch in. So I'm gonna go ahead and compress it here, just until it's flush with the basically I'm lining up my hole. So I'm taking my 1/16 inch starlet then and pushing it in from the bottom, and I'm just kind of lightly pushing until I feel it push through the hole that the pin is going to then replace once we are ready for that. Just kind of wiggling it around, not applying pressure, much pressure or anything. There it is. All right, so now it's in. So you can see it standing proud of the top here, and it's in the bottom. So now we're going to take it out of the vise and rotate it 90 degrees like this. So now the breech face is oriented. All right, so the next step of installing our pivoting extractor is putting in our pin. And you'll notice this pin is directional, so the top has a radius cut into it, whereas the bottom is flat. So that top radius matches the top of the breech face radius. So we are going to put that in on the top. So from start, I'm going to go ahead and rotate it like that so it matches the radius of the part, so I don't have to rotate it and find it later. I'm just basically, with my left hand, I'm grabbing the punch here and just slowly rotating and pulling it down so it's not protruding out of the top to make room for this to start to go in. So I'm just applying light pressure on the pin so that it keeps up with the pace of the punch going down. And basically just pushing the punch out with the pin. So once I've got it, to this point in where it's about 50% in, I'm going to grab one of my Delrin blocks, which I'm just going to use as a bit of a mallet to push it in the rest of the way. There we go. You want to make sure it's completely flush with the top of the breech face. So this is getting proud just a little bit, so I'm going to give it a tap. And there we go. So I'm going to pull this out of the vise. There we have a reinstalled pivoting extractor, ready to shred again. All right, so we're at the reinstallation step of the breech face with pivoting extractor here. So what I've done here is thoroughly cleaned out my slides. The mating surface of the back of the breech face is not going into any old grease or old Loctite, things like that. I've got my extractor, my breech face screw has been cleaned, so there's no old Loctite on it any longer, otherwise it will not adhere properly. I've got a red Loctite here at the ready to reinstall. So what you're going to do is grab your breech face and put it in through the ejection port like so. Flip it over, and there it is, kind of roughly in location. And what you'll do is put this on your Allen. Go ahead and rub a little red Loctite on it, on the threads. And I'm going to insert this to the back of the slide. Make sure I hold that in place. And then this will, basically the screw will suck everything up in tight as I reinstall this. And in terms of torque for this, basically as soon as you start to feel this T-handle flex at all, have any sort of torsion on it, you're tight. This is kind of measured in inch pounds, not in foot pounds, right? So we're not looking to, it's not a load-bearing wall. So there we go, we are now reinstalled. The final step to get your slide back to a basic field strip state is to reinstall the firing pin itself. Go ahead and grab your firing pin and spring and drop that into the back of the slide. I like to use a punch to drive that in flush into the slide like that so that these firing pin stop can clear it. We're going to hold that while I grab my firing pin stop. Insert that up under the rails. So I let that up on accident, so I'll go ahead and push that down like this while I push the firing pin stop out. And now we're back to a basic field strip state.